Igbajo Television, independently together.
I am Chief Moses Inaolaji Aboaba of Olawole's compound, Okeoja, Igbajo. I wasn't born with silver spoon because my parents were relatively poor. My mother was a petty trader. My father was a plank sawyer who used most of his time in Igbajo those days to serve their bosses that were resident in Ibadan. So in his prime time, he worked so much that he lost most of his nerves. In sum, when I was growing up in Igbajo, I only know that it was my mother that was catering for us, even himself, as well as every other child of the family then. Those days were very interesting, but I give glory to God that now, through His grace, one has been what one has become. While in Igbajo, those days, particularly while I was in school, I had to go and find firewood to sell, to help my mother. I make baskets, which I sell to help my mother. And I also serve as a farm labor hand, particularly on Saturdays, to be able to get food and some little money to assist my mother then. So you could see from my background that I wasn't really born with silver spoon. Well, the driver of my rise to whatever heart God had given me today is God Himself, particularly His grace. 2, determination and commitment to whatever I decided to do. In those days when I was growing, the Igbajos were known, particularly those who were educated, educationists. You had people like late Akande Dansi, late Senator Lagunju, and late Timothy Adewale Fashoro, who are those who went to London, became graduates, Akande Dansi, and he was one of those who founded Kiriji Memorial College, which I attended. And but for the efforts and activity of those kind of people, I would hardly have had even secondary education, because it was only in Igbajo they could allow me to have education and pay back after I graduated. There was no other secondary school that would allow me that. But essentially, I thank God that gave me brilliance. I was always doing well in spite of the difficulties confronting me when I was in school. But I also thank God for sending helpers to me. Akande Dansi helped me. Senator Lagunju helped me. And they said because I was brilliant, I should hold on in school until I finished. And I thank God that the year I finished, I was the only Igbajo son that passed the school cert in flying colors. So that is that. And also when I was going to the university, I tried to save up money. I entered the civil service as a clerical officer. That was in 1963. And saved up money on my own, with which I paid my first year at the University of Lagos. And when that money was exhausted, I was lucky to be employed as a part-time staff of a company you call Richware in Inupeju Estate, where I was doing several hours a day and at weekends. And that was indeed what saw me through until 3 weeks to my final degree exam, when I stopped doing that work. I was already married before I entered university with 2 children, So I had to take care of my mother, with whom they were staying at Oshogbo, take care of my wife, and take care of those 2 sons that I had then. But God was so good that it didn't adversely affect my performance in the university. I was always coming up fine in my exams and so on and so forth. So what is most important is being focused and being determined. Whatever you lay your hand upon to do, try and do it well. It only shows me that with determination, the sky is the limit for any of our children that also wanted to make it. And if you look at the civil service, like I said earlier, I joined the civil service in June 1963 as a clerical officer. It was from the civil service that I went to the university and also came back to rejoin the civil service when I finished in 1971, this time around as an administrative officer. Igbajos were known to be teachers, majorly, those who had education that time. So I was, so to say, a trailblazer when I joined the civil service. In the process of my working, there was hardly any of guy I worked with that would want to miss me. It got to a time that my girls were competing to have me. And the system we had that time rewards merit, not clannishness or where you come from. And I give glory to God and happy that I belong to the corps of admin officer, particularly of those Western states, Oyo State, where which had been adjudged as one of the best in Nigeria and indeed in the Commonwealth as at that time. But it happened. That was how I started to rise and rise and rise and to become a permanent secretary, which was the highest position anybody would want to attain in the civil service. That was in 1983. It was during the era of Chibolagi. It was his government that appointed me as a permanent secretary. But that's not to say that there wasn't any difficulty. Civil service also, there were intrigues at that time. People conspire against you, they want to bring you down. But in spite of that, God saw me through. And as at the time they created Osun State in 1991, I was appointed the first Secretary of Government Head of Service of that state. So, and God stood with us, myself and those civil servants that started Osun with me. Within 4 months, they were able to work assiduously, and we lay a good foundation for the incoming civilian government within just 4 months of the start-up of the state. Our motto then was a step ahead of others. We wanted Osun to be a step ahead of others. And it is indeed Osun, within that short time, was a beauty to behold. So what is most important is for you to believe in God, for you to be dedicated, and for you not to cut corners, but do what is right. So this is the process that God has used to take me to whatever. And I retired in January 1992. That's exactly 31 years plus ago. But went into setting up my own outfit here in Lagos, which we call Moenab Limited. And through it, a lot of friends rallied around me, and it was a success as an establishment. And God also crowned that with my appointment as the managing director of the National Economic Reconstruction Fund, then based in Lagos before it moved to Abuja, a federal government undertaking for financing small and medium scale enterprises. And I was there from March 1993 until October 1999. That was precisely six years and 7 months. When I was appointed, I didn't know I would even be there for 6 months. I wasn't a banker by training, but God was there with me and made me to perform excellently. Through that, we were able to finance a lot of enterprises which are still subsisting today. And after I left there in 1999, I came back to my own company where I was doing consultancy services for and training for SME entrepreneurs. But by the time I was 70, I decided to give that up and try and take some rest. Even though that time I stopped my being members of any corporate institutions where I was either a member of the board or members of the audit committee or and others on which I was prominent. I then engaged what you call community service and wanted to impact the life of others, particularly those who I observed had almost the same background as me, that without help they will not have been anything. But I give God the glory for where He brought me from and for what I am today. The civil service of my days were those civil service. The civil service then was the civil service majorly of those inherited from the colonial people. Not that alone. The civil service of my day was the civil service of late Simeon Adebo of Western Region when he worked as the head of service, while Chief Awolowo was a premier of Western Region. It was an acclaimed civil service. The rules, the norms were there to be observed, and it was adjudged one of the best civil services, like I said, in the Commonwealth of Nations as at that time. It was a pride to be part of that civil service. It wasn't to say that people were not trying to cut corner, but the rules were there to afflict them. It wasn't like the civil service we had today, which was the civil service perverted as it were by the military. Before the military, the civil service generally of the Western region, Eastern region and Northern region were doing well, but the best of them was that of the Western region of Nigeria, to which we belong. But most unfortunately, when the military came, they bastardized the service, and what they did was, because of forced retirement of their heads, not that alone, it drew up to the time whereby some of the political leaders were leaning, were committing fraud, and then for fear of what will become of them when they are supposed to be able to go with their guards doing the rules fashioned by the military. Those of them too that wanted to secure their future, they started conniving. So what I'm saying is that the civil service per se was good, but it was bastardized by the civil, by the military. After the military left, the politicians also made it worse. They were in fact appointing people who are not civil servants to come and serve as civil servants, with all the discouragement to those career officers who actually want to work well. And what I found is that the civil service, they say as you lay your mat, you sleep on it. The civil service is not beyond resumption. If we are determined as Nigerians to have the best of civil service, we will still have it. All we need to do is to make sure we go back to those old ethos and rules which made for perfect civil service. The kind of civil service that Chief Awolowo praised and commended, and said that the achievement which he made in the Western region wouldn't have been possible if it was not the performance and the effort of the civil servants. So what I'm saying is that in Nigeria as of today, there are civil servants can still be redeemed with good training, adherence to actual rules, and discouragement of corrupt practices. We could still have a good civil service. We could still have a good civil service. The civil service, as it were, is part of the society which is developing. The days that we were there, there was nothing like Look, like the time I retired in Osun, I only had 100,000 naira saving in the old Trans International Bank, and that was what I had when I was retiring. Those 100,000 naira were made possible because of the money which they gave us to furnish our houses. Because I've had my own house, many of our other colleagues were living in quarters. I had the 50,000 from there, and by the time they said we should retire, and they calculated the retirement benefits in the old Oyo, also after I paid for the loan with which I built my house, I had another 50,000 naira left. That was the only 100,000 naira that I had. But you know, the dignity is there. People, you feel honor. People like you. Unlike now, whereby what is happening is we don't want to do anything except where we think we will get money. That's not service. And this one of the things that I've been struggling even after retirement, particularly bearing in mind the opportunity God gave me in Osun. Osun civil service is like a baby to me. Nobody wants to have a baby and like that baby to die or to be sickly. So I've been doing all I can within my power to make sure that we restore the Osun State Civil Service to what it should be and what it was, or beyond even what it was as at the time the state was founded in 1991, whereby corruption would be reduced to the minimum standard level, if not actually obliterated absolutely. Where commitment to work and service to one's own state will take preeminence to having to cater for anyone's future. So the civil service today is not what it should be. It's not the fault of the civil servant. It is the fault of the various administrations that had been in place, and starting particularly with the military incursion into politics in 1966. Thank you. When there is the Moses Inaolaji Aboaba Trust Foundation that had some major objectives, principal among which is try as much as possible to annually organize lecture that will lead to good governance and good service delivery by civil servants, both in Osun State and in Nigeria as well. That foundation had organized 5 lectures since its commencement. The 5th lecture was delivered on the February 3 this year in Osogbo by the retired head of service of the Federation, Professor Oladapo, and not that alone, various other dignitaries and experts in administration had delivered the earlier 4 lectures also. But what is most critical was that my commitment is to make sure that we improve the situation in the civil service. Just as I discussed earlier, let them be more committed, let them be trained, let them be able to make the positive contribution to the advancement of our state, particularly our beloved state. There is no state administration, no politician can be able to achieve without the support and backing of the civil service. That is the reason why all hands must be on deck to make sure that as much as possible we train them, we motivate them, and we get them back to what they used to be, so that the work of governance will move on thoroughly and expeditiously the way it should be, and we will be able to have an efficient civil service in the state as well as in the Federation of Nigeria. I also belong to, I'm also the chairman of Timothy Adewale Fashion Foundation. That foundation helps those who are indigent and could not, but brilliant. We give them scholarship. We awarded several scholarships to a lot of them. We also help the poor homes, like the homes for the poor, which we have all around the nation. We identify people that need help, and we try to help. That foundation has subsisted now for literally over 10 years and is trying and doing well. Even in Moses Inaolaji Aboaba Trust Foundation, we also award scholarships to indigent students in tertiary institutions who will probably not have been able to effectively acquire education without assistance. And all this one step from the fact that, but for God's help, I myself will not have been anything. I believe we should be able to be committed to making impact, and that has been the major focus of the foundation. There is also another foundation which I set up in the name of my wife, which they call Modupe Oreoluwa Aboaba Widows Assistance Fund. That one is based in Igbajo. For at least 18 years now, we have annually been giving widows interest-free loans to be able to take care of themselves and their wards. And a lot of testimonies attest to the fact that many of them now have graduate children that now take good care of them. And we still continue to do that till today. Well, as it were, since I'm a military and I thought I should get myself engaged. In fact, those were some of the things that facilitated my being able to run those foundations, as it were. Then not that alone. I'm an ordained I'm an altar minister in my church. I thought one of the basic things is that whatever you are by the grace of God, so you must be able to serve God in appreciation of all He has made you to be. Then two, you engage in what we call impacting life through the foundations, helping people through the foundation. They all give me joy, and they are part of what had made me to be able to immediately use my retirement period, identify people who need help and helping them, be committed to improving society, and I enjoy myself doing all these things. So they have not in any way affected me. In fact, rather, they help me to be able to enjoy almost every moment of my days. Well, to me, an ideal society is a society that is disciplined, a society that knows God, a society that cares for the upliftment of the poor, and a society whereby we all live to glorify God and be able to assure good living for everybody and member of that fold. That's what we are trying to preach here in our country, Nigeria, even in our own various communities. Look, God has created us with some divine purposes. If God gives you the grace to fulfill the purpose is to be able to touch life, touch others, do what is right, improve on what you find in your society, make your society better than how you meet it. That we will call an ideal society, and it keeps on going. Most unfortunately, nowadays, people are selfish. People just care for themselves. Not everybody care for others, and that's not how God made it to be. Forgetting that one day God will call us up. When we were born naked, and when God calls you and you are going to naked. So it amazes me how people want to acquire the whole world just for their own alone, whereas God has decided that we should all live and live well. But we live well by taking care of each other, by following the will of God for us, and by making sure that will allow a progressive and meaningful living within society. Well, as a young Inaolaji or Moses, and there was little or no technology as it were. But honestly, I enjoyed my growth as a youth, particularly in Igbajo. You know, instead of what we call football now, you know what we play? We play oranges and with beer leg. When at the time we graduated to play a ball you call Toronto, made of rubber. We enjoyed it. Then there's what you call in Yoruba Okoto, which you play in the dust. We enjoyed it, and it was such a pleasant time then. We never knew that there could be better time as what we are witnessing today. But we have see, it's like a Dokame dilemma. You know, you grow in stages, and that's why we said we should try and lift up whatever society we find ourselves. Like you see Igbajo now. Igbajo is totally different. There was nothing you called phone in Igbajo then. There was no television, there was no radio. But those were part of what made us to concentrate, indeed, in our education. And Igbajo also had a very clement weather. It's like we are living in Jos, always cold. You know, we are surrounded by hills. And my own father's house is on the particular top of a hill. It was as if we live in Europe every time. So we were able to be focused on what we are doing. Most unfortunately, there is technology today. There is abuse of use of technology. Let's talk about mobile phone. See all those kind of things we post on phone, either on WhatsApp or TikTok or whichever. You know, a lot of people now bastardize others through postage of fake news, slander others, and do all sorts of things. Technology is good if we use it positively in the present society, but sadly now we are already seeing that. Look at all those elections. Very many people were posting wrong things on the mobile phones, which have perverted what should be in society. Not that alone. Very many people engage in telling lies, and many people, they even dupe through the phone, you know, the way they hack bank accounts and so on and so forth. So in Europe, where these technologies do come, the people are sane. Most unfortunately, here we not only want to know the way they know, we want to use it beyond what they normally use it for over there. So technology is good. It saves a lot of things, but it is the positive aspect of technology that need to be embraced, not the negative part in which our people are badly immersed now. So to me, in those days, even without technology, we were doing well. Things were getting better. But like I told you of the Dokame dilemma, as society grows, a lot of vices also grow with the society. But I just want to plead that we should try as much as possible to grow positively and then live off that negative side of technology. If we follow the positive side of technology, we will move forward. In fairness, we can even be better than some of these European or Western countries where technology are taking good root. Well, I'm happy that at my time, I'm seeing a possibly changing Igbajo. Igbajo was downright rural. Our road was hardly anything to write home about. At my own time, when during my youth, there was nothing like electricity in Igbajo. There was not, in fact, the greatest thing that happened to Igbajo was the establishment of Creed Memorial College in 1952. Apart from the primary schools that were there. But when you see what is happening now, we will give glory to God. We now have a community polytechnic, Igbajo Community Polytechnic, which is the only community polytechnic in Nigeria as at now, and that is doing well. Not that alone, we now have other secondary schools other than Krijo Memorial College, which I attended and left in 1962. You know, it's 1962 up till now. Not that alone, there is now electricity in Igbajo. There is now good road in Igbajo. But the major thing before, you know, at our own time, people even fear, those who have schooled and left Igbajo, they fear coming home for fear of being there. They talk about witches and witches that time. So that was one of the negative things that drew Igbajo back at that time. Except only our forefathers, the plant dealers from Ife, Ibadan, Ilesha, who come home during this and light up at least the town. But as at now, we now have educated. Igbajo has a lot of professors. Igbajo has a lot of professionals in various fields, both in Nigeria and abroad. But what has happened in recent time is the institution of a positive Igbajo Development Association. The very first Igbajo Development Association was founded, established as it were, in 1988, headed by late Tuguyele. He's now late, former Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Lagos. But ever since, between that time and now, things have since changed. And we now have a very dynamic idea led by my beloved son, Shola Fanowopo, and his executive. They are doing a lot. We had the best, as it were, the best Igbajo Day last year. And I couldn't believe that even in my lifetime, those happenings that I witnessed there could have come to play. As it were, it has come. Many more Igbajo sons and daughters are showing greater interest in the development and of our community. They are also showing interest in whatever is going on there. They are now contributing, just like our old fathers contributed to the establishment of Krijo Memorial College. They are contributing to moving forward the Polytechnic and other things that we are renovating. The idea is now renovating disused schools and so on and so forth. Through that, a lot of positive things are happening in Igbajo, and I pray that we will ever move forward. We won't go back to those old days of fear. As at now, there is no witch, there is no wizard. It is what we create ourselves that can retard us. And since we have decided to move forward, I would say we will continue to move forward. And I pray for all our youths that God will give them the enablement never to forget their homeland, and that whatever contribution they can still make, we should make it for posterity. We should move Igbajo even better. What has happened in the last 1 or 2 years has shown that with determination, the sky is the limit as far as development of Igbajo is concerned. Look, we now have an FC football club that can be reckoned with, and is one of the teams that is listed even for Osun State government. We also have youth that play lawn tennis, being sponsored and financed by indigenes of the town. We also have people who have on their own single-handed dug boreholes in the various areas that constitute Igbajo. Before, it wasn't like that. So it only shows that Igbajos, wherever they are now getting more committed, and they are now focused, and they want a better Igbajo. And with the seal and present determination, I very much hope that within a short time, Igbajo will be drastically transformed, and it will be a society to copy, as it were. Well, for our youths, know God, be determined, be focused. If you are focused, there is nothing you want to engage in. There is no mountain that you won't be able to conquer. if you use me as an example, I was from nowhere, and if I can be what God made me to be, there's none of you. If you are focused and you are determined and you are not cutting corners, you will be greater even than people like me. So I want to enjoy us that we should all be focused. We should all be determined and be committed to whatever cause you have chosen. Then make sure that you let God reign in your life. With all this, there's no way you won't be a brilliant success. Well, I enjoy my pleasure, my leisure. I play golf, and I play golf 2 days in a week. I played yesterday. I'm going to play again tomorrow. Then 2, like I told you, I'm a minister. I'm an altar minister in my church. I take interest in attending church and church matters. Then not that alone, I take interest in having my grandchildren and the others around, organizing a place for them, and making one's heart also to be as fresh as even those ones. So that reduces stress, that makes your heart to work and function efficiently. Then it also makes you not to be weary and drawn down, and not be engaged in anything actually positive. So I also visit friends, but majorly things that concern my community, I participate in it. Because as I know, I'm not working for myself fully, but I get myself engaged in things that are positive and that can impact persons and society. Well, what I'm looking forward to for Igbajo Day this year is for greater participation, even more than what happened last year. And this one we could only achieve by showing interest. Igbajo Development Association have called out for financial assistance. I want to appeal to all our sons and daughters to contribute handsomely to make sure we even have a better Igbajo Day. Not contributing money alone, they should also even contribute effort to support the idea to give us the best so far. And I want them to turn out in very large, massive number that this year we did be better than what we had last year, that we are all commending.
Igbajo Television, independently together.